to Two Guys, One Ballot, where we cover one policy issue that's going to affect you in Colorado. We're not lobbyists. We're not even professionals. We're here for you too.
Yeah, and we're here to sweat to death in a garage on a hot Sunday afternoon. Today's issue is the Colorado cigarette and tobacco tax increase for health and education programs measure, I believe. I think I got it right. And that is a referred referendum from the Colorado legislature that you guys are going to get to vote on. So that's why we're covering it as part of our series called Ballot to the Future, where we talk about one issue that's going to be on your ballot November 3rd, 2020.
Referred measure. Who referred it?
Who referred it is...
Must have been a great referral.
Yeah, it was a great referral from the legislature who, in some cases, they just can't approve things without the voters weighing in on them directly. So in Colorado, due to Tabor, tax increases have to get a voter approval no matter what. And also, constitutional amendments have to go in front of the voters.
This is going to increase the tax on cigarettes from 84 cents a pack to $2.84 a pack. That's $2 additional on each pack of cigarettes.
And this will put taxes for the first time on e-cigarettes in Colorado, which are currently not taxed the same way that cigarettes are. The money from this tax is going to go to the state government, and here's something that's important about it. This money is outside of the Tabor limit. So you may be aware that every year the government in Colorado can only collect and retain revenues up to a certain number set by a set of laws called Tabor. This revenue is outside of Tabor, so this is additional money that the government can spend every year without having to worry about its limits.
Money?
Money, that's right. So about 75% of the money that's collected through this cigarette tax will be used to fund education programs. Some portion of that will also just go to the general fund for the state to use. There are some health programs, some anti-smoking programs down the way, but mostly this is going to fund education.
Including the governor's preschool measure.
Some of it.
Some of it. Over $100 million worth.
Sasha, you have some things that you really like about this measure. Why don't you tell us about it?
I think it's a goodie, right? Where taxes have one economic principle that I think everyone can agree on. They reduce the amount of economic activity on whatever's being taxed. So hopefully this reduces the amount of people smoking, buying cigarettes, because cigarettes will be more expensive for them to buy. Secondly, I like education. Education is good. I don't personally want to pay for it, and this causes someone else to pay for it.
Because you don't smoke.
I don't smoke.
So you basically are saying you want smokers to help pay for education.
I don't have to pay.
Now here's the thing, Sasha. You are not below the poverty line in life, but did you know that 1/3 of smokers are below the poverty line and 2/3 of smokers are in households that make $50,000 or less? Are those the right people to be paying for public education? Shouldn't it come from big corporations or high earners?
I agree. Part of the problem with this bill is that if it works, if people actually stop smoking, then eventually you run out of taxes to pay for schools. I say let's cross that bridge when we get there. I agree that this is a regressive tax, but we're not taxing diapers or groceries here. We're taxing something that is a lifestyle choice.
But what about something that is a lifestyle choice for the ultra rich, right? So if we want to say, let's tax this for something that does good, maybe we could protect the environment. Why don't we put an extra tax on super high luxury vehicles that guzzle gas, maybe corporate jet fuel? Why not tax, if this is about taxing some special thing to fund education, why not tax something that people can actually afford to pay?
Well, this is a 2-for-1. We're getting increased health benefits for people whose lifespans are probably the shortest in the country because they have reduced access to health care. So we're getting extended health benefits and we're getting education in one. Now this isn't really sustainable long term because the rate of smokers is decreasing. So eventually we will have to tax something else to pay for these education measures.
But in the meantime, you're okay with this taxpayer base bearing these taxes?
I am okay with this taxpayer base bearing these taxes because I want them to smoke less, and I think economic market forces are the best way to force anything.
So we're a pretty healthy state in Colorado, but we have about the same amount of smokers as states like New Mexico and Arizona, but both of those states have double the amount of cigarette taxes that we do. Do you think that it's possible that cigarette taxes especially in our region, just don't have that much effect on smokers, and that the other states where smoking is just as high as it is in Colorado present good evidence that raising the taxes won't accomplish much?
I think that if you can depend on one thing, it's market forces to reduce, come into play. So higher taxes will reduce smoking in Colorado if the taxes are on cigarettes, and who's to say that if those states didn't have lower taxes that their smoking rates would be even higher?
That's true. And actually there's pretty good data out there suggesting that cigarette taxes do decrease the amount of smoking. So they are effective. And especially among younger people in their late teens to early 20s, it's particularly effective in deterring people from buying cigarettes, which is the goal of this bill. So one of the con arguments against this bill is that we will increase the incentive to create a black market, right? So we're surrounded by some states like Wyoming, where the tax on cigarettes is even lower in Wyoming now than it is today in Colorado before this increase. And by putting this increase into place, we're going to go from being one of the lowest tax states on cigarettes in the country to suddenly being one of the highest tax states in the country on cigarettes. So won't that create opportunities for a black market, people smuggling in cigarettes from Wyoming, both casual smugglers who will come in and sell the much cheaper cigarettes to the teens that we want to deter from smoking, or professional smugglers involved in gangs or other activity? What do you think about that?
Yeah, certainly. I think that the same economic forces will create that incentive to move black market cigarettes, which we've already seen occurring in states like New Jersey, where there's rings of black market cigarettes getting captured. But Russell, I think every piece of legislation, especially taxes, has unintended consequences. This is an unintended consequence that we're just going to have to deal with. This is something that the people that use to enforce the movement of goods across borders are going to have to figure out how to conquer.
Yeah, I think that's right. One of the other, for me, the biggest unintended consequence of this that I really don't like is that you're going to impose a tax on people who are generally low-income people. So it's very hard for smokers to quit. About 80% of smokers report that they want to quit. 50% report trying in the last year, but less than 10% of those smokers actually succeed in quitting every year. So that means you're basically imposing a tax on people who are generally from low-income demographics, and we know that they actually can't stop using this product no matter how they try, and we actually have invested tons of money in smoking quit programs and quit lines and help, but the truth is most people who want to quit really can't do it. And the reality is you're going to end up taxing poor people, a regressive tax, to pay for schools and healthcare. Now, I agree we need funding for schools, and I agree we need funding for healthcare, but just coming up with a way to tax poor people to get that, that's the wrong way to do it. The other point on that same line, though, is if this was really about preventing smoking, why wouldn't we spend most of this money on smoking prevention programs? In fact, there is a lot of good data out there suggesting that things like graphic images of lung cancer on cigarettes or anti-smoking advertising campaigns like the Truth campaign are actually extremely effective, and that to get the same amount of effectiveness for anti-smoking efforts, you would need to impose taxes of $2 additionally or more to reduce that amount of smoking.
I say increase the tax even further and create those programs.
But you think that we do need the money for education. If this fails, shouldn't we be? Why are we putting our eggs in this basket to get our education funding? Why aren't we putting our eggs in a basket that makes more sense for the tax base?
Clearly, this is a political play, and the authors of this bill know that nobody really likes smoking. Even smokers don't like smoking.
Right.
So I think that this is a play. It's a bridge of financing that isn't sustainable. Something else is going to have to come. But right now, I'm just okay taxing cigarettes, and I don't care who pays that tax. I want them to quit. Also, as a society, if we truly wanted people to stop smoking, we would just make it illegal, or we would make it even more illegal, just like we've made smoking already illegal in bars
but societally,
and public spaces.
We've crossed that question, though. We think smoking is fine, not in public spaces, but we think smoking is fine. And we know people are going to do it. And we know that the people who do it are mostly poor people. So why would we impose taxes on essentially a tax base that's least fit to be able to bear it? Think about this. Colorado, we tried to pass an education funding bill, a progressive income tax, so that high income earners would bear the cost of education funding, and that bill failed. The taxpayers rejected it. Now we're going to push the cost of education funding onto smokers who are mostly a low income demographic. How can that be good tax policy?
Russell, if we truly just want to eliminate smoking, there's lots of other things that our society hasn't explored. Right now, I can buy cigarettes at every gas station in Colorado.
Right.
If we truly want
do like fireworks, make them drive to Wyoming.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's do our conclusion. Sasha, you've heard my arguments. Which way are you going to vote on this?
Russell, your arguments are reasonable, but I'm still going to vote yes on this one. You haven't convinced me.
All right, Sasha, your arguments are not that reasonable. My arguments are very reasonable, but the truth is, I want there to be less smoking, and I do think we need money for education one way or another. So right now, I'm leaning towards saying yes. But I
Suck on that, smokers!
But I want to note that I hate consumption taxes, so I could change my mind before the election. All right, guys, let us know what you think in the comments. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, smash Sasha, and we'll see you next time.